Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike!
All right, we're rolling. It's Thursday night, Gridiron Grinder time. I'm Ryan. With me, as always, is my buddy James. Just a couple of dudes hanging out, talking about what's going on in the NFL each week. This is episode 116 of Gridiron Grinder. And so for tonight, we're going to kick things off with Name That Stadium like we always do. After that, we'll hit the news from this past week. Then we'll jump into our week six power rankings and game picks. And last but not least, we'll close things off with question of the week. And so, with all that being said, how's it going tonight, James?
It's going good. How's it going with you?
Oh, it's going good, man. I shifted around my setup here, making the best of it because it's Thursday night. We got Washington and Chicago playing as we speak. So I'm trying to do a little bit of cheating here and watch the game while we're talking. I'm expecting you're doing the same here, huh?
Yeah, I didn't have to change my setup at all, though. Just have it kind of going over here.
Yeah, you just got the second screen going right there, so you're in good shape already. I got you.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so for anybody who's watching, just a couple housekeeping items. Obviously, tonight you're going to see us kind of looking around a little bit because, we got to watch the game while we do this shit. But also, these are long episodes. So if you're new to the show and there's a particular section you want to jump to, just check the comment, or I mean, the description of the show. We've got everything bookmarked so it's easy to navigate. And then, yeah, I mean, hey, we're talking all things NFL. Pretty much every week we're doing our power rankings and game picks. In the off season, we do a lot of different topics from the draft to free agency to team outlooks, whatever, fantasy football. And so, if that's your cup of tea, go ahead, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And so, yeah, James, let's get it moving on here, man. Let's jump over and do Name That Stadium. Why don't you take the ball and run with it, my friend?
All right. So this section is where I kind of like to travel around, go to various games, or go to various stadiums during the season. It's generally a game that's hosting an NFL game that weekend, and then somebody somebody thinks they know where the stadium is, be the first to post. We'll give a little shout out to you. Even if you don't know, just feel free to post a comment what you think or anything. But we'll give a special shout out for the first person that names the stadium.
And so, yeah, where were you at last week and any kind of inspiration, whatnot?
So last week went international. I was like at the beginning of the show, I was like, "Motherfucker, stop throwing that hint out there! Stop throwing that hint out there!
uh,
God damn it, stop throwing!" I was at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium,
okay.
which which is actually I found an article today about it. You know, because you had what was it last week was the Packers and the Giants
Yep.
there, but apparently the Hotspur Stadium, when they built it specifically in mind to host NFL games, and
Really?
had special locker rooms for NFL players and pre-built in, and like the NFL media stuff pre-built in. So, and then with as part of it, they were guaranteed getting at least 2 games a year for like 10 years or something.
Okay. And so, do you know how old that stadium is? Is it fairly new or what?
Yeah, I'll look really quick, but I want to say it was built like the year before, like 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, no, that makes sense because I just, I remember growing up, there was that like very brief European Football League, and I was just wondering if this was like maybe at the back end of that where they thought that could like kind of parlay into some NFL action or something. But obviously that European league fizzled out. It was cool. They tried it, but they're way bigger into soccer over there, and I
Yeah.
think the way that we're doing the couple games a year, it's keeping them excited, keeping them interested, and it's been planting that seed, which has been good.
Yeah, so it officially opened um September of 2018.
Okay.
Um and then it held I don't know when did it hold its first NFL game was October the following year.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I was right. It was a year before it opened, and it's like it has separate facilities for soccer and NFL players. Um, various various things. It caters to the different requirements for NFL media. I just found it fascinating that they built it with the NFL in mind.
Yeah, yeah. It's like because yeah, there's not a team playing there every week. It's very limited use, and so I hear what you're saying. Well, that's cool, man. No, it's good stuff, and I'm glad you went international. And sorry I was maybe letting the cat out of the bag a little bit, but I had to ask because the games were starting to happen. So, um, all right, well, let's move it on over and let's do our recap of the past week. I don't have a ton of stuff to get into tonight, James, but whatever you want to add in or whatever, obviously feel free. I thought we'd start off like we've been and do like our surprises from the games of this past week, which I think, probably in my mind, there were two games in particular that were bigger surprises. And I think the first one was the Giants knocking off the Packers. Man, I don't know how to even describe it other than that entire second half up until that final drive. It just looked like Green Bay was asleep at the wheel, and you
Hmm.
just can't play that way in the NFL, man. Even if you're on paper stronger than your opponent, it's the NFL, man. That shit'll come back to bite you in the ass, and it did last week. I think really nice for the Giants to capitalize on that. The other big surprise that I had, James, was, and whether you could say it's a surprise or not, but to me it was a surprise, was the Lions getting shut out by the Patriots. I mean, that game was just embarrassing. And with how strong they had played every week up to that point, uh, it was just like really about as bad as it could have gotten for them. And so, you know, and then I would say on the more positive side, maybe not a surprise, but one that I was happy about was Dallas getting another win. Cooper Rush now 5-0 in his career as a starter. And man, that Dallas defense just smothered the Rams offense. And the Rams are going to keep having this problem this year. Anytime they play a decent defense, it just this is not like a normal McVay offense, man. They have no offensive line to protect Stafford and run those kind of plays that McVay
Hmm.
is creative at drawing up. And so, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I think you hit it, hit it on the head with what the surprise games were. Like, I mean, yeah, I kind of overrid my model because I couldn't fucking see the Lions losing to New England,
Yeah,
but
yeah, to a
it's
fucking
just
third string quarterback, man.
yeah, Bailey Zappi.
Oh,
Um,
that son of a bitch. He didn't even have that good of a game. They just destroyed us in every other way.
mhm. I have no words, and I'm just gonna get angry and start dropping f bombs and left and right if we continue to talk about that game.
Sure.
Um, I didn't see much of the Giants Packers game. Being on the West Coast, it's kind of early to get up for the game, and then I ended up sleeping in a little bit, so I like turned it on like right as the Packers were forced that safety, like right like what was it, 12 seconds left in the game or something like that, and so I couldn't comment much on it. I was surprised in the final outcome, but I don't know what's wrong with the Packers. Like they have no sense of urgency
Oh,
whatsoever.
definitely not. No. And
And
it
like,
was both sides of the ball, man.
mhm. And this isn't the first time that that's popped up with them.
Yep.
So I don't know what to say. Yeah, and then apparently Rogers is dealing with some sort of injury or something now. It's like, man, you're just being never mind. I'm not going to finish that. Um,
All right. So let's just talk, just kind of continuing the way we've done these the last few weeks of some of the bigger injuries that came out of this past week. Tua didn't play. Looks like he's going to be ruled out again this week, so it's kind of like a carryover injury. Teddy Bridgewater, they're saying, looks like he may get cleared, but even if he does, he's going to back up Skylar Thompson and be the number 2 quarterback going into this game this weekend. I did see Damian Harris had a hamstring injury for the Patriots. Looks like he's going to be out for a couple weeks. I think they'll be okay. They still got Ramondre Stevenson and a fairly strong offensive line. Um, and those were really the big ones I picked up. I'm sure there were probably some other ones that maybe I'm missing, but that was just kind of like the quick pickups I got there on the injury front. I know
There
there's
was,
always a lot, but it's yeah.
let me see, there was, no, never mind, that was college. I was thinking there was a quarterback that like hurt his shoulder and is out for the season, but that was a college quarterback. That was
Gotcha.
for Kansas, like JT Daniel or something like that.
Okay.
Wilson apparently is dealing with a shoulder injury, but it's nothing too serious.
Yeah, he's gonna get
But
some shots or whatever. Already did. They're expecting him to be ready for Monday Night Football. I heard.
yeah, they're expecting him to be ready. And actually, I'm just seeing this article that uh, not Brissett, the backup in Miami,
Bridgewater.
Bridgewater, is out or
Yes.
is out for he's out for Sunday, so it is going to be Skylar Thompson. That's official.
So now, did they rule out Teddy B, or they just saying he'll be the number 2? Because
Rookie quarterback.
the last I heard is he might get cleared, but he'd be the backup either way.
Uh, I'm not seeing any mention of. Okay, so he hasn't even cleared concussion protocol yet,
Yeah.
and he may, but it looks like they're probably going to have to elevate their practice squad QB. What was his name? It was some guy I never heard of.
Yeah, I don't even know who it is.
Reed Sinnett.
Okay.
Whoever the fuck that is. Apparently he's in the second season. He went to San Diego.
Okay.
I've never heard of this guy. Let me
Yeah,
look him up because
you can do some digging. Yeah.
with what's been happening with Miami, I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to get some playing time.
Yeah, and so while you're looking at that, James, I'll just kind of hit the other pieces of the news that I picked up from this past week. And this first one, we got Washington playing right now, but one of their defensive backs, William Jackson III, he's expressed interest in being traded, and it looks like the team is entertaining some trade talks. And so he's a guy to keep an eye on. I think there's a couple weeks yet before the trade deadline. But this past week, a lot of the rumor mill type stuff started stirring up for that. And then also, looking back at these games, there were, in my opinion, 2 really bad calls on roughing the passer. You had Grady Jarrett got called for taking down Tom Brady. Brady kind of like downplayed it like it was like a long, unwelcomed hug or whatever, but, part of football. And then the other one was Chris Jones getting a sack on Derek Carr, which was a strip sack. And the Chris Jones one ended up not really being a factor in the end because Kansas City still got the win. The Grady Jarrett one, that one bothered me a little bit because it could have shifted the momentum for Atlanta, and that game was close enough that it maybe could have impacted the outcome. And so, I don't know how they go about changing this stuff, but man, if you can't touch the quarterback like at all, basically, we're just not even really playing football anymore, man. It's just,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't even know what to say.
Well, we joked over. Was it Monday night or Tuesday? Yeah, it was Tuesday after I finally because I missed the um, Chandler Jones call in that game, and then but I saw it in a replay, and we talked, and it was like, I mean, they'd call roughing the passer even if they were playing flag football, and you just grab the flag. I mean,
Yeah.
shit. And I did hear though that Brady said something along the lines of, also had said something along the lines of, "Hey, look, players make mistakes, ref make mistakes. It's part of the game."
Yeah. I mean, it's a people business.
Yeah,
We're all
and then
humans, so yeah.
but Von Miller to the I think it was the Chandler Jones one said, "What the fuck is he supposed to do there?"
Oh yeah, really. I
It's
mean,
like there's
are you
nothing to
just
be.
not going to make the play?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you have to tackle the quarterback. Hey, what what's going to happen is you're going to be bringing him down, and you're not going to take him all the way to the ground. His knee's not going to touch, and then he's going to roll out and throw a touchdown pass, and then everyone's going to be pissed at you because you didn't tackle the quarterback when you had a chance.
Yep, yep. So
So I mean,
James, this one I don't have a ton of information on. I've just heard some of the highlights, but what is all this stuff going on with Devontae Adams? Have you heard about all this? I originally heard something about he shoved an official, and then I heard it was a cameraman or something, and that the guy filed uh, uh, with the local police department like assault charges against him or something, and it's like, uh, and so I'm like, I don't know, did he shove an official and a cameraman, or was it just a cameraman, or what? What is going on there, man? Have you heard about that?
so what I've seen um, is so when he was walking off the field,
He was obviously pissed because they lost. They went for
yeah,
two, it didn't work.
he shoved a credentialed media worker,
Okay.
and he has officially been charged with assault.
Yeah, and I think it's if convicted, it's a misdemeanor from what I did read. Um, Whew, man. Oh,
Up to
but wow,
six
did you
months
see
and a.
did you see that pick just happened on the game here?
No, I was reading about the Devontae Adams
Sorry,
thing.
sorry, man, sorry. Uh,
I have the
for
wrong damn
yeah,
monitor.
Fields
But
threw one, hit it off of one of the linemen's head, bounced up like 10 feet in the air, and a defensive lineman picked it off. And,
I
they,
might be
and they were
behind a
like
little bit.
inside the 5 too, so that's a tough turnover.
Oh shit! My feed's behind a little bit. The play just happened on.
Well, then I got to keep quiet. Now I know I'm ahead of you. See, I think
Uh,
one of the last times we were doing this, you were ahead of me.
all right, there we go. So something happened where I was doing something else and my feed got behind. I got to see it, but that was a crazy play because I look over and I was like, what the fuck is he talking about? Chicago has the ball,
Yeah, yeah. Nope,
and
nope,
then
nope.
and then literally right after that the play happened. But anyways, so apparently he was angry and he should be. Yeah, he bobbled that ball along the sidelines, which caused it to be incomplete. And then on the 4th and 1, which sealed the game. First of all, he shouldn't have fucking been passing there, but he ran into Renfro and caused which because there's I don't know, some cross up in the route or one of them was delayed. So as they were running the other, but if the pass that probably would have been completed felt incomplete.
Yeah,
So he was upset, and on the way out, he apparently pushed the cameraman, and the
yeah. And I,
cameraman not only filed filed a police report for it, and he's been officially charged, and he's doing court November 10th. But um, the cameraman has also sued Devonta Adams
oh, like civilly. I got you.
civilly.
Yeah. Yeah, and I saw Adams made a statement that, oh, he was running off the field and the camera guy or whatever ran out in front of him and trying to say it was more or less like incidental contact. And then, it's tough, man. I mean, I didn't see it. I'm only like reading about it and hearing about it, but it's like, man, professional athlete, you gotta like, you can't, you can't have people be like collateral damage because you're emotional or whatever because your team lost.
Yeah. So if the video works, I just noticed that the article I pulled up on it
Has a
has
video?
might have the video on it. So it's he's charged with misdemeanor assault, blah blah blah. So I would gonna try to see if they actually if it's just a discussion on it or if they actually show
Okay.
the incident. I'm not. I'm just kind of looking over
Skimming
the
it.
scroll bar, and I'm not. I'm only seeing talking about it.
All right. Well, it's
So
okay. We can move on here, man. News wise, I didn't have anything else, man. Was there anything you saw that you wanted to hit?
it feels like with how crazy this week's been. Monday, Matt Rule was fired in Carolina.
Holy cow. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. It feels to me like it's already been like a fucking year ago, but yeah, we it was after we did our show last week.
Yeah, it was. I'm trying to think because they fired like a few people.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
the defensive coordinator as well.
yeah, I couldn't remember if it was just the defensive coordinator or if they fired offensive coordinator as well.
So I thought I saw that Steve Wilkes he's the interim head coach. I thought I heard he was hanging on to the offensive coordinator, but that he was gonna take over defensive play calling, which is like his bread and butter. And he used to be a defensive coordinator and was the head coach for, I believe it was just the 1 year for Arizona. But he took a job as like, I don't know if it was their defensive line coach or whatever, defensive backs coach. But he wasn't the defensive coordinator. Rule had a different guy, and so he got rid of Rule's guy. He's going to do it now, and um, but yeah, they're shaking it up, man, and rightfully so because that team actually has a decent amount of talent. And I get it. Baker Mayfield wasn't like the answer they were looking for, but McCaffrey was playing a heck of a lot better and staying healthy. The defense is very talented. They still got DJ Moore. I mean, they should have won more games, man. It didn't work out, unfortunately. So
Yeah, so it was just so they fired Wilkes was the defensive pass game coordinator. They fired the defensive coordinator, assistant special teams coach. Um, I think that's it.
okay. All right. What else you got news wise, man?
I feel like there was something else, but I'm drawing a blank. Like it was. Oh, the whole fucking Daniel Snyder bullshit.
Yeah, you'd have to, I guess, get me up to speed on that. I heard some kind of, I don't even really know what to say about it. I just heard something like he was claiming to have dirt on other owners and Goodell, and what does that mean or what's going on? I really am not totally sure.
So he has dirt on NFL owners, and Goodell. Apparently, he said
Allegedly.
a, he hired a private investigator to investigate all the owners in Goodell, and he um, said to uh, somebody that private investigator found enough dirt on the owners that would tear every one of them down, and Goodell also.
Jeez.
And
Well, they're all wildly successful business people, right? And so, maybe as part of that, they've had to do some things, or who knows? I can only
yeah, so
speculate that, yeah.
so his comment was, and he also said that the NFL is a mafia. All the owners hate each other, supposedly.
Oh, like
Which,
they're all like the bosses,
yeah,
like
which
protecting their own territory, and yeah.
which an unnamed longtime owner told ESPN, "quote That's not true. All
Okay.
the all the owners hate Dan."
Yeah, it's just him. He's on the outside. Well, right
Yeah,
now they got a rally just to like bury him, basically.
yeah. It's like he's bragging about like how they can't fuck with him and this and that, and then also there's this other article where as part of the article, if some of the stuff is true in the ESPN article, um, because remember earlier in the year he was like banned from day-to-day operations and fined
Yep.
$10 million. And so apparently he was the one that pushed for and made the decision on the Wentz trade, even though he was supposed to be not. He was supposed to have relinquished day-to-day operations of the team, and it's just like he's like basically fuck you NFL. Which
Uh,
it's been that way
yeah,
forever.
he's always making waves, and whatever the reason, but he's always involved somehow, and it's always negative. But all right, man, what else you got?
I think that was the last piece. I just glance.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything else.
All right. Well, let's move on then, and let's do our blah, 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 I can't talk all of a sudden. Let's do our week 6 power rankings, James. And so, before we jump in and you give me your 1 through 5, I'll just tell you I shook my board up kind of like you did last week, figuring, okay, we're past that quarter season mark. Uh, you know, there's some teams that I think on paper are maybe better or worse than their record reflected. But because their record now past the quarter season mark was either better or worse, I felt like I had to try to marry the two somehow. And it made, I would say, some bigger moves on my board than what we would probably normally see in any given week. And so, uh, you know, that was just me prefacing some things from my end, but go ahead, man. Why don't you give me your 1 through 5?
All right, so there's not that much movement in my 1 through 5. We'll get to some of this in a second. But at number one, I have Philly. They were number one last week. They won. And my 1 through 5 was I'm going to start with my 1 through 5 was on my own, and after I pasted it in, I realized something on it.
Okay.
At, at number two, I moved Buffalo up one spot. I just think, looking at Buffalo, I think I was overzealous with Kansas City, putting them ahead of Buffalo. I really,
Sure.
truly think Buffalo is far and away the better team this year. At number three, I have Kansas City. I moved them down one spot. So I just flipped 2 and 3. At number four, I have Baltimore. I moved them up 3 spots after beating Cincinnati on, was it Monday night or Sunday night? Whatever. This past weekend.
Yeah.
And I had Cincinnati at 4, and because they beat, or it was Baltimore they lost to, and I put Baltimore up so far. I couldn't have Baltimore ahead or below Cincinnati because Baltimore beat Cincinnati. Oh shit. Um, sorry.
Uh, no, no,
So
no.
I
Hey, we got a big play. I got you.
couldn't have Baltimore below Cincinnati, so I moved Cincinnati down one spot and put Baltimore ahead of them. So that's my 1 through 5. Why don't we flip it over to you for your 1 through 5?
Okay, sure thing. Yeah. So, I mean, hey, our 1 through 5 is 100% aligned right now. I got Philly at 1, kept them where they were at. They're still the lone undefeated team, and so I like keeping them at the top of my board at least for another week. 2, I got Buffalo. They were at 2 last week. I kept them where they were at. I have seen some other sources move Buffalo up to that top spot, and I think that's fine. I mean, you can make that argument. Buffalo looks legit. I just am giving Philly the edge because they're undefeated and they've just played phenomenal this year. At 3, I got the Chiefs. I moved them up one spot. You know, we were all kind of hesitant coming into the season. What are we going to get without Tyreek Hill? I think we're seeing it's still one of the best quarterbacks, one of the best coaches, and they're winning. And so top 3 for me just makes sense right now. At 4, I got Baltimore. I moved them up 3 spots. I like that they're playing more complementary football now that it seems like J.K. Dobbins is back and healthy, and he's able to take some of that pressure off Lamar. And I think it's also been taking some pressure off the defense because now they're running the ball a little bit more successfully, managing the game clock a little bit better, and just all around it's been good for them. And so. And then at 5, I've got Cincinnati, and so I moved them up 3 spots, even though they lost to Baltimore. I think they're back on track with looking more like the Super Bowl team than the team that came out in weeks 1 and weeks 2 of this year, where they just looked like really like they didn't have any of their shit together. And so I feel good about them, especially now at this, past the quarter season mark, when I compare them to other teams on the board, we start doing this whole, well, do you think they could beat that team or do you think they could beat that team? And so it's not always about the record sometimes. It's about where you think they stand overall in your mind. And so I felt good putting Cincy in the top 5, even though they're coming off a loss, man.
Yeah, one thing I forgot to say about Philadelphia is yeah, there are teams that have better offenses, there are teams that have better defenses, but Philadelphia is like they're looking like the most well-rounded team,
Oh, yeah.
and they play complementary football where their defense. I mean, the trenches on Philadelphia is freaking ridiculously good, and
Yeah.
they're just the most well-rounded team in the league right now.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I've been saying it a lot. They've got a top 5 offensive line and they've got a top 5 defensive line. That on its own is going to keep you competitive. But then when you look at every other piece of the offense and the defense, they have talent at every level. And so they could go all the way, man. Anything could happen. It's still a long season and whatnot, but I like what I'm seeing so far.
Mm-hmm.
All right, man, back to you,
Definitely.
6 through 10.
All right, so this is where I had kind of a lot of I had a little bit of shakeup here in 6 or 10 this week. At number 6, I have Dallas. I moved them up 6 spots. It was just an impressive, dominant win over the Rams. And I mean, they won by 12 points. Yeah, they're one might say they're playing safe on offense, but is that a fumble?
I mean, they're calling like they got the ball. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or are they just saying they stopped him and so they're getting the ball back because it was 4th down? I
Oh,
think
was
yeah,
it fourth down?
I think they're just saying they got the ball back because it was 4th down. Uh,
Anyways,
yeah,
sorry, distractions with the game. So I moved Dallas up 6 spots. Yeah, they're once Dallas gets Dak back, Dallas might be a top 3 team in the league.
yeah. I mean, if their defense keeps playing this strong, but I would also say they have to still have some commitment to the run game because they've
Mm-hmm.
been too easy to just put it all in Dak's hands these last couple of years. And if all you're going to do is air it out, that can be bad. You got to be well rounded, in my opinion.
Yeah, and then so at 7, so Dallas moved up 6 spots. 7, I have Miami. I only dropped them 2 spots. I wanted to kill them, but I think it's more of a product of their struggles right now are more of a product of Tua not being there
Yeah,
than they are of that this team is that bad. Yeah, they got destroyed by the Jets. They were playing their third string quarterback.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. What the fuck,
for
Lions?
after what was it the
Take a
second
lesson from their playbook.
the second play of this game or whatever, Bridgewater got knocked out.
Yeah,
At number 8, I have Green Bay. I dropped them 2 spots, and this one I didn't. Once I got them down 2 spots, I started looking at the teams I had behind them, and I was like, I don't know if Green Bay would lose to this team, so I couldn't
okay.
drop them much
I got
So
you.
that's Green Bay at 8. Tennessee, I have them at 9. I left them at 9. Yeah, they barely beat the Commanders, but it's just so like I'm not as impressed by the teams behind them, so
Yeah.
I kind of leave them at 9. And also Tennessee tends to, and even in the past, they play up to their opponent, but they also play down to their opponent.
Oh, that's a really good observation. Yeah, I agree with that.
And then at number 10, I have Tampa Bay. I left them at 10. There's no way in hell I was moving them up for beating Atlanta. I almost moved them down
Yeah.
because they were like a bad call away from losing to Atlanta, basically. And their offense, I mean, they scored 21 points. Great. They got into the 20s this week.
Yeah.
Um, but that's who I have at 10.
I got you. Yeah. And so looking at my 6 through 10, I've got Tampa Bay at 6. And so, James, what I'll tell you is that my 1 through 5, I feel very comfortable with is that's like the top tier for sure. My 6 through 10, I feel like you could basically interchange the spot for any of these teams. I'm having a hard time saying, oh yeah, this team's better than that team. It's like Swiss cheese, man. There's like a hole in each of them, just in a different spot. So Tampa Bay, I moved them up 4 spots just because, kind of like the product of flipping my board around. But yeah, I mean, they're getting a little bit healthy at wide receiver, and so I think that that's encouraging. Maybe we're going to see their offense get a little bit more consistent. Either way, I've got San Fran at 7. I think maybe a bit aggressive moving them up 4 spots, but I think their defense has just been playing freaking lights out, man, and I like watching that. That's exciting. At 8, I've got the Chargers. I moved them up 1 spot. You know, they're in my top 10, but they're suspect, which is mostly due to the injury issues. There's also some questionable coaching going on there, too. Then at 9, I got Dallas. I moved them up 4 spots. I think their defense is playing championship level. I mean, they're
Hmm.
playing amazing football. The offense has been very smart and very safe. They've been running the ball a lot. Cooper Rush hasn't been making mistakes and turning over the ball. And he actually did have 2 fumbles last week. I don't want to like say he's been squeaky clean. 2 fumbles, Dallas recovered, which definitely helped them. But everybody's pitching in to get those wins in Dallas, and so I like that. And then at 10, I got Minnesota. I moved them up 2 spots, which is tough. I mean, they're all over the board, man. I mean, it's like one week they look great, another week they look dicey. This past week you saw it in each half of the game. One half looked dicey, the other half, whatever, looked good. Uh, Cousins kind of came out, said that they're still adjusting to a new head coach, a new playbook, things like that, and it's going to get better. But hey, we're going into week 6 here. You guys got to get this shit ironed out, and yeah. So that's my top 10, James.
All right. So at 11, I have the Chargers. They played a hard-fought game, barely beat Cleveland at Cleveland. I wasn't that surprised on how close the game was, so I didn't want to kill them because they still won. So I didn't move them down. I still do shit on paper and write down what my model comes up with. So I had them. I had it within a touchdown. So I mean, it's about what I thought would happen. Um, I didn't want to kill them. I don't think they're worthy of moving up for beating Cleveland because I have Cleveland a little bit further down. But I had the teams neck and neck. I
Sure.
have at 12. I have the Rams. I dropped them down 4 spots. What can I say about the Rams? I mean, I I really don't know what to say about the Rams. Like, there's nothing good I've seen this year come from the Rams,
Yeah. Yeah. They're struggling.
and I just I almost killed them further, but I figured I'd leave them at 12 and see what happens this upcoming week. 13, I have Minnesota. I didn't move them. Look, they beat Chicago. They only beat Chicago by a touchdown. I think that's more of a factor of where they played versus. I'm sorry, no, it was in Minnesota. Um, I think that was more of a factor of its division game, but still, Chicago's that far down
Yeah,
that I don't. I didn't feel justified to move Minnesota up.
I can
At
respect that.
14, at 14, I have Arizona. I moved them up 2 spots, and yeah, they lost this week. But if you actually break down the game, Minnesota was. I'm sorry, Minnesota.
Philly.
Arizona basically was leading almost the entire game,
Yeah, they played really hard.
and they played really hard. It was, if I remember correctly, there was like a few fluke plays at the end that gave Philadelphia the game. So I left them. I moved Arizona up 2 spots because I thought they played really well against my top team, and they only lost by a field goal.
Sure.
15, I have New Orleans. I don't even know what the fuck to say about New Orleans either. They're very.
Can they
They beat the
replicate that with
Seahawks.
Taysom Hill?
Yeah,
Probably not.
exactly. Hopefully so, at least this week.
Yeah, I
But
mean, it's not going to be a consistent thing. That's all I'm
yeah,
saying.
it's not going to be a consistent thing. It was a high scoring game, and they just happened to come out on top. Um, I don't know. I don't know how to analyze the game because I don't think Seattle is that good.
Yeah,
So I can't say that I couldn't really. But then again, when I look around the Saints, like it's kind of like Cleveland lost, Jacksonville lost, so those teams have to go down. Like
yeah,
and it's just like where I am around them. It just 15 feels right for them.
yeah. You got to find harmony on your board. I got you. All right, so yeah, for me at 11, I've got the Packers. I moved them down 8 spots. It was a big drop, and we already covered it pretty well. I felt like they were asleep at the NFL. They got burned. It is what it is. 12, I've got the Rams. I dropped them down 6 spots. My opinion is they might as well call Eric Fisher, start shaking the tree with all these teams, see if they can trade for offensive linemen, whatever they got to do. They're not going to have any success this year if they can't figure out that offensive line. It's clear as day. At 13, I've got the Dolphins. I dropped these guys down 8 spots. It's just a matter of Tua not being healthy. You kind of already called it out. And I paused him on my board last week and kind of mentioned that I wanted to see how they could do without him. Obviously, they lost Bridgewater and like the wheels pretty much fell off. And so until Tua gets back, I'm concerned about the Dolphins. At 14, I've got Tennessee. I moved them up 2 spots. I think they're playing better as of late. I'm just not sure I can trust them consistently to keep winning. It seems like if teams can shut down Derrick Henry, they're exposed, and they don't have much else going on there. Their defensive front seven, I think, played great earlier on in the year, and that helped kind of like get them some of these wins. But injuries are stacking up, and that's another factor to keep an eye on. And then at 15, I've got the Browns. I moved them down 1 spot. James, I'm just going to say it's not like, this doesn't matter to anybody, but, this is one team that's been a disappointment to me. They could like literally just hand the ball to Chubb and Kareem Hunt like 40 times a game and they'd win probably, 9 out of 10 of their games. But they're just playing like really, and the running game's good. Chubb's doing what he's supposed to do, but it just seems like they're making bad mental errors at bad times, and it's biting them in the ass. And so, I don't know what else to say, man. Back to you at 16.
Yeah, I agree with that. And like right now, Cleveland's goal is just to kind of hold on until they get Deshaun back. And once Deshaun can play, just hold on to that playoff hope and still be in contention for the playoffs. I have them at 16. I dropped them 2 spots. I don't think there's much more to say to that.
Okay.
17, I have Jacksonville. I dropped them 2 spots. Yeah, they lost to Houston, and you would say, well, you should kill them more. I kind of expected that type of game
You called
from
it,
it.
man. Yeah, you called
From
it.
it, from it. In fact, and I had the like final score of the game, I had it within a field goal. I had a little bit higher scoring, but still, I just they always the Jaguars always seem to always lose to Houston. At 18, I have San Francisco, and I paused them on my board here because I want to. I get confused. Joey Bosa or Nick Bosa?
Nick Bosa.
Nick Bosa. I want to see what's going on with his groin injury and how they play if they're missing
Here,
him.
let me help
Um,
you. Let me help you with the confusion, James, if you'll ever remember this. But think about it in alphabetical order. J comes before N. Joey was drafted before Nick, so he went to the Chargers. Nick went to the 49ers, if that helps you. So,
Joey wasn't drafted before Nick,
yeah, he was.
was he? Oh,
Yes.
okay.
So maybe that won't help you then.
Yeah, I always think it was the other way around. But anyways, 19, I have New England. I moved them up one spot, even though they beat the Lions. They thoroughly dominated that game, and I saw glimpses from New England on what that team could be if they had a real offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to bump them up too much because it was only against Detroit, but I saw the glimpses, so I wanted to give them a little bit of credit for that.
Sure.
Plus the Raiders dropped one spot for losing to Kansas City on Monday night, and look, the loss. Let's call it like it is. Josh McDaniels is a fucking idiot. You should not have gone for two, down 1 point with 4:27 left in the game, going against Patrick Mahomes. You kick the extra point, see what Patrick Mahomes can do, because you're going to have to score anyways again. And it proved
Yeah.
to be the downfall.
Yeah. It bit him in the ass. He was aggressive, and it didn't work. Well, all right. So James, I've got
Speaking
Arizona.
of look, I'll get to that. I'll get to that in a minute. Never
All
mind.
right.
Go
No, that's fine.
to your
Yeah. Let me give you my. So yeah, I've got Arizona at 16. I dropped them down one, like you were saying. I like that they hung in there with Philly. That says something, but they couldn't close, and I think that that says something more because that seems to be the MO for Arizona in the Cliff Kingsbury era. They're just not closing shit out consistently. It's 17. I got Jacksonville. I kept them where they were at, and so to me, uh, I gave them the benefit of the doubt that, like you were saying, Houston kind of has their number. Try not to put too much weight into this one game. And then, really, when you look at the rest of what they've put out on the field this year, they have really overperformed expectations. And so I'm going to say that this was just a bad matchup for them, bad week, but they're better than that. And so I kept them where they were at for at least this week. Then at 18, I've got the Giants, fucking crazy, but I moved them up 10 spots, man. It was hard to do because I think on paper they are in that bottom tier, but they continue to find ways to win. And at 4-1, I just can't have them sitting in the 20s anymore. I had to find a way to get them in the teens somehow, and so they're playing hard for their rookie head coach, and so this was a big attaboy for them. At 19, I've got the Colts. I didn't move them. It was one of the worst football games I've seen in a long time, to be honest. Them beating Denver. Um, yeah, and I will say this: the next couple teams on my board, they all have similar kinds of dysfunction, and so I didn't move the next couple teams either, just because it's like you won, you lost. There's a lot of crazy things going on, and so like 20 with the Raiders. They lost, but it was to Kansas City, who's now one of my top three teams, and they did hang in there. They just, like you said, it was sort of a mental mistake at the end. Why did you do that? You could have played it different. You were going to have to score anyhow. But whatever, it is what it is. Back to you at 21, man.
All right, 21. I have Houston. I bumped them up 2 spots. I probably didn't get as excited about them beating Jacksonville because I kind of expected it, so it wasn't a surprise to me. So you could make the argument that 21 might be high for them, but I've kind of been high on them a little bit as the season goes on. Has been going. 22, I have Indianapolis. I dropped them down 1 spot. I probably should have dropped them more. They it was it was a terrible, 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 terrible thumping they
Yeah,
received.
yeah.
And look, Indianapolis. You said that. Oh, never mind. It wasn't a thumping. I got games confused. It was a terrible game.
Yeah, no,
Um,
they won, but yeah, I mean, I would say,
they
I
won.
mean,
Yeah.
offensively, it was a thumping both ways. Neither team did anything offensively.
Yeah. So Indianapolis is my biggest disappointment this year.
Oh, for
I
sure. Yeah.
I had them as slated as easily a top 10, top 5 team this year, and they're close to the dumpster fire. 23, I have the Giants. Moved them up 2 spots, and I was hesitant to move the Giants up much more because I had to take into consideration this was the first time that Green Bay played in London.
Okay.
And the Giants have done it before, so the organization, it might not have been under Dayball, but the organization has the history and can set it up. And I think, I don't know, while Green Bay's not playing good and they don't show the urgency, I don't know if the win by the Giants was more of a factor of Green Bay overlooking them versus the Giants being actually better.
Yeah, I think Green Bay
24, I have
clearly
Denver.
overlooked them. Yeah.
24, I have Denver. I dropped them down 2 spots after that pathetic game on Thursday night. I probably should have dropped them more, but I couldn't drop them behind like the next few teams I have. 25, I have Washington. And only thing I have to say about Washington, I dropped them down 1 spot, but it's more of a statement on Carson Wentz than Washington.
Yeah.
Did you hear earlier in the season Ron Rivera basically destroying Wentz? Earlier in the week, sorry, where he was asked a direct question on what the difference is between Dallas being 4 and whatever and the Giants in Philadelphia, and his flippant answer was quarterback. So he openly destroyed Carson
Yeah.
Wentz to the media. This is the third head coach on the third team that has openly destroyed Carson Wentz to the media.
Yep.
If you look at like Arizona, Kyler Murray has his flaws, but they don't openly destroy him to the media.
Unless we're talking about contracts.
Well, that was more of an issue with the contract terms were leaked. It was supposed to be between the two of them. The terms were leaked,
Oh, for
and
sure. Yeah.
but but they kind of that's a terrible game. Um, they just they, why destroy your quarterback to the media? I mean, there was talk this week that Heineke would be starting instead of Wentz because of a possible Wentz was injured a little bit or something
Yep.
in
Yep.
this past week, and there was comments by the media that Heineke would give them a better chance to win than Wentz did anyways.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
It's tough. Yeah. So,
all right, back to you, 21 through 25.
all right. So at 21, I got the Saints, James. I'm not going to bump them for beating Seattle. Like I was saying, I don't think the way Taysom Hill took over that game is a sustainable thing for them. It was more of, career day for Taysom Hill, very unique kind of game for anybody. I'm happy as heck for him. I just don't think that it's like something that they can rely on. Denver, I've got at 22. I dropped them down 4 spots. James, I would get Sean Payton on the phone right now make a mid-season coaching change before Carolina or somebody else lures him away, because I've already heard rumors of that, which blows my mind.
There's a thing about that.
That's what I'm saying.
Carolina would have to basically trade for Peyton from New Orleans, and New Orleans is not going to let Peyton coach there.
Okay, Denver, make it happen.
I agree. I 100% agree with you. Hackett can't hack it.
Good wordplay. Good wordplay. But yeah. And then at 23, I've got Atlanta. I dropped them down one. Had it not been for that questionable call, they might have won that game. So, but they're just 2-3. So I can't really justify putting them any higher on my board right now. At 24, I've got Seattle. And James, it's crazy saying this, but Geno Smith is actually doing his job. He's playing really good football. Uh, it's everything else on that team that's letting him down, which is just wild to even say it. And then at 25, I've got the Patriots. I move them up 2 spots, and I just yeah, I like what you're saying. You get glimpses of how a Belichick team gets better and tightens down and things like that. And you can kind of see how good they could be. It was just like the worst possible thing for the Lions, and so I'm just like flabbergasted at the way that game went, man. I mean, 29-0. It just was disgraceful for the Lions, but hey, good for the Pats, man. Back to you,
Yeah.
26, man.
26, I have Atlanta. I didn't drop them, and the reason I didn't drop them is because I thought they outplayed Tampa Bay, and like you said, it was if it weren't for a questionable roughing the passer call, they probably would have won the game. 27, I have Carolina, and I wanted to drop Carolina more. I really did. I wanted to drop them after this performance this last week. Didn't they lose by like 15, 20 points? Let me verify that.
Yeah, what was it, 15-29, or it was a lot. Yeah, I'll let you scope it.
It was 37 to 15. But they were playing San Francisco, who I have substantially higher on the board than them. So I left them there. I think the coaching change might do something for them. 28, I have the Jets. Look, they put up a 40 spot on what I thought was one of the best defenses in the league.
Yeah,
I moved them up 3 spots. I wanted to move them up more, but I mean, if you would have told me going into the season that the Jets were going to start 3-2, I would have told you were smoking crack, because I was certain they were going to start 0-7.
oh yeah, we thought that they had a really rough schedule and that they were a bad team to begin with. We were struggling to find wins like anywhere on their schedule.
Mm-hmm. 29, I have Pittsburgh. I only dropped them 1 spot after the thumping they got from Buffalo. I thought the thumping was more of a Buffalo statement revenge game for the loss last year.
Yeah, and there was
And
no expectation that Pittsburgh was even going to stay in that game.
yeah, and I think this is about right to what I have around Pittsburgh.
Okay.
29, I'm sorry, 30, I have Seattle, dropped them down 1 spot. Like, the craziest stat I'm reading is, like, Geno Smith has, like, been the most efficient quarterback in the league so far this year. At, like, he has, like, an 80% completion percentage, which is absurd.
Yeah.
And he's keeping this team afloat. Outside of him, there's nothing.
Yeah, pretty much, man. I mean, they'll have Kenneth Walker now that he's going to be starting.
I'm so excited for that.
Yeah.
That was the other big injury that
Yeah,
we forgot.
Rashad Penny. Yeah, I forgot about that. The tibia.
Penny broke his tibia.
Yeah,
Anyways,
so hey,
back to you for 26 through 30.
yeah, and hey, I feel bad for Rashad Penny because he definitely was ascending in Pete Carroll's list of priorities, and he was going to be like the new Chris Carson for that team. Hopefully, Kenneth Walker can be an instant impact rookie from here on out. Yeah, so at 26, James, I've got the Jets. I moved them up 3 spots. I thought it was a nice win over Miami. I'm just trying to keep it in perspective that it was against a third string quarterback. But I do like what you're saying. Even though it was a third string quarterback, they did put up a shitload of points against what should have been a really good defense nonetheless. At 27, I've got Detroit. We've talked about it a lot. It was embarrassing. I'm dangerously close to dropping them into the dumpster fire. I'm just hoping that this was like a one-off bad game because they really have played good football up until this point. But with one win on the books, it's not looking good for them. At 28, I got Washington. Similar to Detroit, I dropped them down 3 spots, and they also have dumpster fire potential. They should be a lot better than the way they're performing. 29, I've got Houston. I moved these guys up 3 spots. I've been waiting for them to get a win so I could get them out of the dumpster fire. And so I got them here. I didn't want to go too much higher than this, but, this is where you start doing well, hey, could they beat Detroit? Could they beat Washington? And it's
yes.
to me, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to say because they've all played like such just different football. So I don't know. But at 30, I've got Pittsburgh. I kept them where I had them last week. It was really out of respect for Tomlin that I'm not putting them in the dumpster fire. Plus there was no expectation in my mind that they were going to compete against Buffalo. So over to you, man. Give me your dumpster fire, James.
All right, so you put Detroit on dumpster fire alert.
You put them in it.
Last week, I had Detroit on the cusp of the dumpster fire. They've moved down to 31, the one spot needed to get them in the dumpster fire. Look, why the fuck do you sign a kicker and then not trust him?
Mm-hmm.
Why the fuck do you go for it 7 times, whatever it was? Did they go for it on 4th down 15 times? When was the last time that Detroit forced a punt? I think I heard a stat during the game. At that point, it was 17 straight possessions against them.
Oh, I'm sure some new NFL record.
Like seriously, in the Seattle game, Seattle didn't fucking punt the ball once.
Yeah, that was embarrassing.
So, they're lucky that Chicago is as bad as they were. Otherwise, I would have them at 32 where I have Chicago.
Yeah.
You got to catch that if you're... Sorry.
Oh, I agree. We're watching the game here. Yeah, and by the way, that flag before I think was a little bit questionable, but it's okay. I know he wasn't like fully turned around to try and break up that pass. But all right, so at 31, James, I got Carolina. I dropped him down 5 spots. With Rule being out, Mayfield being hurt, this in my mind, it's not like I'm bashing them hard. It's like I'm basically just saying this team has nowhere to go but up at this point. And so they're dumpster fire. If Wilkes can get some fire out of them, cool. At 32, I got the Bears. And so, even with one more win than Carolina, just watching the Bears play this year has been, like, very clearly in my mind the worst football I've seen. And there are some bad teams. I think Washington's flirting with it. Detroit's tough because they've actually played strong. It just, this past week and then their defense
Wentz
in general.
hurt his hand?
Yeah, Wentz hurt his hand, man. Yeah. He caught it on like a defender trying to like swat the ball away, and then it looked like he kind of hit the back of a helmet too. But yeah. So that's my dumpster fire.
That's a shitty pass interference call. All right. Anyways,
yeah,
that's your dumpster fire.
Well, yeah, I mean, he did. It's because he pulled the jersey just the tiny bit, and they're going to call that shit every time now. But that's okay. So those are the power rankings, James. Let's kick it over. or let's take a pause, a game break.
How do you not catch that? Okay, let's kick it over to the picks for this week. We had a little bit of action on tonight's game. Last week when we talked about it, I was on Washington, and I when I went through my full analysis of it, it kind of flipped it to Chicago. Even though I have Chicago as like the worst team in the league, I also don't like what I'm seeing out of Washington.
Yeah.
So Washington's going to be on alert to be a dumpster fire team shortly, but I'm on Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, hey, yeah, so I stuck with Washington, and I mean, we're looking at this game. They're almost at halftime. It's 0-0. If Washington loses, I will gladly put them in the dumpster fire, and they might be there together. It might be Chicago at 31 and Washington at 32. I don't know, but in my model, I've got Washington winning. It's close. It's by just under 2 points.
Hmm.
And when I'm looking at it, it's
I had
like,
it just the opposite. I had Chicago by 2.
gotcha. Yeah, so I mean, we were fairly close, but like I look at my heat map here, and they're basically just staggering, going back and forth between green and red, green and red, green and red. I think you know this is something that I've got to resolve, but it seems like my model is still saying Washington has a better defensive front seven, even without Chase Young. Uh, and somewhere in there, I got to find a way to adjust it because their defensive front seven is not playing that strong, even though
Hmm.
they had that nice goal line stand earlier. And so, um, it just keeps kind of raising them higher in my model than I think that they deserve. But either way, I got this game close, and they're both bad teams.
But their front seven in spots is good, but
Yeah.
they're not consistent. All right, so San Francisco at Atlanta, and I was surprised on how close my model had this game. Um, oh, I had of the week 6 games this week, I had 3 games within 1 point,
Oh,
eight
another
games
drop.
within a field goal, and 11 within a touchdown.
Okay.
So, but I think it's a kind of a factor of how good Atlanta's defense is playing and the concern with Bosa's injury. I'm just going to call them both Bosa and be good because both Bosa brothers have groin issues going on.
Yes. Does it run in
Anyways,
the family? I don't know.
that's what I was wondering. That's the joke I was going to say. So I
Oh,
have San Francisco winning the game by about 5 points.
okay. So I've got
That
San
should be
Fran.
best interference by the rules that they've been calling it, but
So I've got San Fran by 6, James. So we're very close on this one. I give them just the slightest edge at quarterback, the slightest edge running because I got Patterson out. I think that San Fran, the defense is where they're really going to have the strong advantage, especially on that defensive front seven. Although they did lose a guy in the secondary, so that's something to keep an eye on. But I think that they have like some surprising depth in the secondary this year. Was not expecting it, and so either way, I like San Francisco in this one, man.
uh, so then we have New England at Cleveland, and this one absolutely shocked me in my model.
Okay,
This is the largest victory I have of the week.
really?
New England over Cleveland by 12 points.
Whoa! All right.
And I couldn't, at 12 points, yeah, there's probably something in my model that's a little bit off that's favoring New England, but I really like you can't something that large you can't really go in and override it.
Hmm.
So I'm going with New England.
Yeah, I'm interested to figure out how you got to that, but we can worry about all that later. I've got Cleveland winning by 4, and I wouldn't be surprised to see this one go either way because Cleveland, like we've talked about, they're making mistakes at bad times and it's biting them in the ass. And there have been enough of them now to say something's wrong. It's not a fluke, and so I could see them getting exposed by New England because Belichick clearly tightened down with this team last week. Uh, and usually when their team dials it in, they stay pretty well dialed in. And so, but either way, I'm sticking with Cleveland. I'm sticking with my model. And yeah, good stuff.
All right, so we have the New York Jets at Green Bay. And when I ran this in my model, I had this as a 1 point victory
Oh, jeez.
by Green Bay.
Okay.
And I went back through and looked at it and looked at it and looked at it. And I'm going to override. Holy shit, 73 to nothing? All right,
You're
anyways,
looking at a old Chicago championship.
yeah.
Where's the mercy rule?
Yeah. So I'm going to override my model in this with
Okay.
how Green Bay's playing, how well the Jets seem to be playing. I'm going to go with the Jets
Oh my gosh, you son of a bitch.
to beat Green Bay.
Let me just get this in here. So that means we got some more action this week, and so I'm taking Green Bay. It's tough, man. My heat map is entirely green for Green Bay, with exception to their receivers. I actually show the Jets receivers as being more talented, which I guess is not like a surprise. Green Bay doesn't really have a true number one right now. And the Jets kind of have like a lot of quality twos, I would say. And so like that does add up in some kind of regard. But um, I think the Packers know they can't fuck around. They got to win this game. And my model's got them winning by 8, so I'm sticking with that, man.
All right. Next up, we have Jacksonville at Indianapolis. And and this is a comment on how shitty Indianapolis has been playing
Yeah.
this year. This is my second biggest spread of the week in my model
Okay.
at 11 points with Jacksonville winning. And I think last week was more of a fluke. I think more and more as I see Jacksonville play, I'm starting to think more and more that they're the best team in the AFC South.
Yeah, I think you can make that argument.
And
So,
I'm gonna go with Jacksonville, but I have it. I have Indianapolis scoring a 13 points in this game, so 2 touchdowns.
okay. Yeah, and for me, James, this is where I'm overriding the model for one of my picks this week. I've got 3 overrides, but um, my model has Indy winning by 7.5, and I cannot trust anything that my model pumps out for Indianapolis because they have just like disgraced it. And so I'm going Jacksonville off of the narrative and off of what I'm seeing with my eyes. I think they're just playing better football, even though the model very clearly favors Indianapolis. For me, my model.
Yeah. Next up, we have Minnesota at Miami. This is another one of those 1 point games that my model had. This is subject to change. Right now, I got to kind of dive into this game a little bit further than I've been able to so far.
Sure.
Right now, I'm on Miami,
Okay.
but it's subject to change. Um, subject to change.
Oh, making magic. Yeah, and so James, I can't knock you for that because here's what I'll say is that I am taking Minnesota, but this is actually a slight override in my model. It has Miami winning by a half a point. I just can't see it happening until Tua gets healthy. Or, the alternative is maybe Tua stays out, but Bridgewater gets healthy and he shows some proficiency in that offense. Until one of those two things happen, I got to be really cautious with Miami, and so I'm going Minnesota.
It's weird. I just kept having weird pop-ups on my spreadsheet.
Well, you got to stop looking at the you know
God,
what.
I know I gotta stop going to the porn sites. I know I do, but hey, what can I say? I just love them too much. All right, next up we have Cincinnati at the New Orleans Saints,
Nolans.
and my model has New Orleans winning by 3 points in this. I'm leaving it as it is, subject to change depending on what I'm seeing with various things. But I'm gonna go with New Orleans in this one.
All right, I'm totally fine with you doing that. I would say that this is one of my other overrides, so this is my third override this week, and that's all I'm going with, at least for now. But my model has New Orleans by 6.5, and I just don't feel comfortable with that. I think, we've seen them clearly underperform all the talent that they have on their team.
Fields is hurt too.
Yep, and I,
Is
I
this game
think
going to end 0-0?
it's
I'm
it's
sorry,
three
three to
three
three.
three zero. Yeah, it could be 3-0. But so it's. I just think Cincinnati, the narrative.
Wait, that wasn't roughing the passer?
Well, he was outside of the pocket, James.
Okay. It's
Uh,
anyways.
yeah, yeah, and he's not Tom Brady, so or Patrick Mahomes. So I guess Mahomes wasn't the one
Derek
sacked; it was
Carr.
Derek Carr. But yeah, either way, I'm taking Cincinnati.
All right. Next up is the Baltimore Ravens at the New York Giants, and I think for my model, this it's more of a comment on how well the Giants are playing this year. Because I mean, Baltimore's playing great. I mean, but you look at Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones being safe with the football.
Yeah,
Did he? Oh, I thought he caught that. Um, my model has this as a 3 point victory by Baltimore. Look, the run game has been effective. Dabble changed the culture with the Giants, so I could see why it's so tight. But I'm going to go with Baltimore in this game.
yeah, I'm going Baltimore too, and I've got Baltimore by 10 in this game. So we've got a little bit of a different way of getting there, and that's fine. My heat map has Baltimore all green, with exception to the Giants have the run game, which is really just because Saquon has been on fire this year for the most part. But I think Baltimore has the edge otherwise. Uh,
Mhm.
we'll keep an eye on it because their defense has been suspect, but I think they've gotten better as they've made more of a commitment to running the ball. And so, yeah, either way, I'm going Baltimore.
Then we have Tampa Bay at Pittsburgh. And the weird thing about my model this week is all three of these games spit out the exact same score.
Okay.
New Orleans, Baltimore, and Tampa Bay all came up with 24-21 victories. And this one I have Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's, I think 24-21 is it's a crazy to think that Pittsburgh will score 21 points on Tampa Bay, but it's also crazy to think that Tampa Bay can score in the 20s again. So I think the score's high, and I think it's going to be a close game, but Tampa Bay is still going to win.
I gotcha. All right. Well, yeah, I've got Tampa Bay, and my model is taking Tampa Bay by 6, which I would think would be higher, except when you think about the way that they've been playing, they've just not been scoring much, and so I guess that's fine. But just looking at my heat map here real quick, it does have Pittsburgh favored in the secondary, and so maybe that can help slow down Tampa Bay, even though they finally are getting their wide receivers healthy. But really, otherwise, and I would say coaching too. Like I trust Tomlin more than I trust Todd Bowles as a head coach, at least. But I think it's an uphill battle for Pittsburgh, and so I'm taking Tampa Bay.
And we have Carolina at the Los Angeles Rams in SoFi Stadium. Um, if you want to hear something fucked up about this game,
I do.
when I modeled this game out, I think it's a comment on how bad the Rams are playing, but it had you would think on just like first instinct, how close do you think this game would be? Just,
Instinct would
touchdown.
instinct would say the Rams should beat them down, but you
Yeah.
think about how bad the Rams offense has been, and I don't know.
My model has this as a 1 point victory by the Rams.
Oh, jeez. A 1 point victory by the Rams. Okay, so I've got the Rams as well. I've got them by 7.5, which it may not be because Carolina's defense is good, just like a lot of these other defenses that have been smothering the Rams offense. And so I have the Rams, but I will say I am not confident by any means that the Rams can actually win this game, which is so wild,
Mm-hmm.
considering they just won the freaking Super Bowl. But yeah, I'm going with the Rams.
All right. And then we have the final game in the 4 o'clock Eastern Time window, starting at 4:25. It's Buffalo at Kansas City. So a couple things about this game.
Did we skip Arizona Seattle?
Yeah, I just wanted to skip that game.
Oh,
I'm on Arizona 20 or 30. I have it by Arizona by 4 points. Yeah, Geno Smith is playing phenomenal, but I think Kyler's going to pick apart that defense.
okay, yeah. So you're going Arizona. Sorry, I saw another 4 o'clock on my thing. I was like, wait a minute. Um, I've got Arizona by 4, and it's
Yeah, I inadvertently skipped it.
it's all right, man. It's all right. And hey, it's in Seattle, and it's hard to say in these kind of games because Geno Smith has played good, Kyler Murray has been good, bad, and everything in between. And so this is another one of those games I can see going either way, but I'm going to take Arizona.
All right, now to the final game in the 4 o'clock Eastern Time window: Buffalo at Kansas City. And if you do you realize that in the playoff game last year, after the 2 minute warning in the fourth quarter, there were 31 points scored.
It's freaking wild, man.
It was a show. It was also like the first time in NFL history that both quarterbacks had 3 touchdowns and no interceptions. Going into this game, this is the first time in his career, including playoffs, that Patrick Mahomes is an underdog at home.
Oh, wow.
With all that said, Buffalo is by far the better team. By far. Buffalo did it last year. Went into Kansas City in this regular season and won. I think it happens again this year. I don't know why Buffalo's at fucking Kansas City like every year. Why
Yeah, I
can't they
thought it was
play
supposed to go the other way, but what the heck,
Yeah. Um, I'm on Buffalo. I have it at like 38-33, so that's what 71 points scored in this game.
All in the fourth quarter?
Probably.
No, no. So, all right, James, I agree with you that I believe Baltimore is the better team, except that I think they're dealing with more injuries. And my model, when I account for the injuries, and of course I got to make some assumptions with some of these, but it's got Kansas City winning by 2. And um, it's hard for me to pick between the two of them. This was like
Mhm.
probably my toughest game to pick. The model kept saying Kansas City, and I was wanting to override and go narrative with Buffalo, but This is one where I think I'm going to stick with the model, and so I'm taking Kansas City by 2.
All right. Now we're on to the Sunday night game, Dallas Cowboys at Philadelphia. And I have come up with a specific rule for my model until it proves me wrong. Whenever my model picks Dallas, I stick with it.
Okay.
The crazy thing is this is the third game of the week. You know how I had 3 games that weren't within a touchdown. I have Dallas winning this game by 10 points
Holy shit, man.
in my model. And it's crazy to me. But my model, for some reason, there's something in my model that loves something about Dallas.
Yeah.
But it hasn't failed me.
No, hey, you got to go with it, and that's fine.
I'm sorry, it's only failed me when I looked at it and said, "No, that's crazy. I'm gonna override it." And
Okay.
that was the first week. That was the Cincinnati week, and they beat Cincinnati. And then I've just been goes if it picks Dallas, that's who I'm going with.
I gotcha. And hey, I wouldn't be upset if Dallas wins because it'd be another one for Cooper Rush, but I'm going against Cooper Rush this week. I hate to do it, and I'm taking Philly. I just think they're way too freaking hot, man. And my model has Philly winning by 2.5. Um, this has honestly, it shows the trenches both ways very, very strong. And so I think that could make this a very tight game. Um, I think Hurts will be the difference maker. He'll be able to find a way to get a little bit more offense going. But like I said, I wouldn't be hurt if Dallas wins because it'd be good for Cooper Rush.
Yeah, and the
Fire
thing
up
with this game,
chips.
the thing with that game is where I see the key is if Philly can control Micah Parsons,
Yeah.
then Philly has a solid
Who?
shot at winning.
Yeah, and Micah Parsons is going into the game with a groin injury, but he says he's going to play.
Yeah. If and I didn't know that. I'm going to have to keep that in mind
Yeah, keep an eye on that, man.
as we get closer to the game. But if they can't control Micah Parsons, then I think Dallas has the edge.
Okay.
All right, Monday Night Football, Denver at the Chargers. This would be a blowout because Denver's freaking terrible
Yep.
and can't and but with the exception that last week they had such an anemic performance, I think there's going to be much more focus on putting up points, and that defense kind of can stop. I still have concerns with the Chargers. My model has it at a 3-point victory by the Chargers, who I'm going to pick in the game.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm taking the Chargers as well. I've got them by 7.5 here. And actually, let me just check something real quick because there is one factor that I could hypothetically tweak, and I want to see how it affects it. Um, let's see. Yeah, I think it's going to be the Chargers either way, and I'm good with them taking it by 7.5. In my heat map, this is one of the rare events where it is entirely green from top to bottom for the Chargers, which sounds kind of wild when you think about all the injuries that they got. But that's just how much Denver is just like flailing so badly this year. And so, yeah, I'm going with the Los Angeles Chargers.
And then we're on to next Thursday,
Yes.
which is second thought. It's not as terrible of a game as I initially thought. The New Orleans Saints at Arizona. I did not put this in when I sent you my spreadsheet.
That's okay. I can put it in right now.
I am deciding now. First instinct tells me Arizona, and I have my model on a different computer, so I can't even attempt to do that because I forgot
Sure.
about it. First instinct tells me Arizona. Prior to the season, I thought New Orleans. New Orleans isn't the team that I'm going to go with Arizona until I can crunch the numbers.
Sure. Yeah, for me, I've got Arizona winning by a half a point. It's close, but I think that anytime the model goes against New Orleans, I'm going against New Orleans because they
Mm-hmm.
have underperformed every time. And so I'll take Arizona, and then we'll see what shakes out this week with any potential injuries and things like that. Maybe we'll talk about it, but that's my early pick for right now. So, oh yeah. And by the way, James, let's just go back because we did skip over where we're at season to date with our
Good.
picks. And it's important to do that because we did have a solid week last week. We both nailed 11 picks, which was good for like 68 point whatever percent. And so that's like more in that kind of territory where we want to be. And so year to date, that brings you up to 42 wins, good for 53%. And it brings me up to 46 wins, good for 58%. And so solid week by both of us. We're now moving back in the right direction, my friend.
Yeah, I completely skipped over that. You know, looking at last week's picks, I overrode my model in one game. That was the Lions game.
Okay.
Outside of that, my model was pretty spot on with the exception of like Miami and like the early games in the week. But like, well, there was the four that would give you four games, but like the Denver game that was a surprise. Miami, you didn't know that Bridgewater.
Yeah, and then Green Bay, nobody was picking that.
Yeah. So it's all good. My model stirred me right last week, so I'm trying to stick with it, but something's just itching at me that Green Bay's going to lose again.
And hey, it could happen, man, any given Sunday. But yeah, I did 4 overrides last week. 3 out of them I got right. And so it was an aggressive week to override. I'm doing 3 this week. And it's just the way it's going to be until I can work out some of these bugs in my model. But that's okay. So let's move it on here, James, and let's do our question of the week. So I'm just going to ask you, you know, I don't know how to really like word this necessarily, but I guess what I'm going to say is, are the Giants what we were expecting the Lions to be at this point of the season? Because it just feels to me like we got cheated being in year 2. I would have thought the Giants would have been a step behind us. The Lions went into the season with a heck of a ton of momentum with their coach and everything like that. And I know it's not the first time for this team, but I really thought that they were playing competitive even though they were losing. And then this past week was just an embarrassment. We've talked about it. It now has me second guessing the coaching staff. It has me second guessing all sorts of things. And the Giants are like the flip side of that, where I didn't expect anything out of the Giants. I thought, hey, you're one of a major rebuild. They got to get their ducks in a row, and they come out of the gates freaking 4-1, playing their asses off for their coach, but getting wins, man. I know it's kind of a strange question.
I would say no. I don't think the Giants are as big of a surprise
Okay.
because it's a new coaching staff and they're rebuilding, but they had talent there.
Yeah, and I guess we kind of knew that if Saquon got back to form,
Mm-hmm.
he's a game changer, and he has been a game changer.
Yeah, they have talent and they've also I think a phenomenal coach. Am I second guessing the coaching staff in Detroit? Going for it on fourth down
Every fucking time.
every fucking time you have the ball makes me wonder.
Yeah. Yeah, it's too aggressive.
Except for in the game, and was it the Seattle game where he didn't go for it on fourth down when he should have? Like the one time he should have gone for it on fourth down, he
Yeah,
didn't,
yeah,
and every other time
yeah.
he shouldn't have, he did. So I don't. And plus, going into the week, everything coming out of that coaching staff was they were going to be more conservative, less aggressive. And
I
what
know.
the fuck happened?
Yeah.
I
It
ugh,
almost
it's
reminds
frustrating.
me. It almost reminds me of like a few years back when Tomlin, even though they had Chris Boswell and great kicker, he just decided we're just going to go for two every time. Every time we score, we're going to go for two. And that went on for like, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks. And eventually it, it went against him enough that he had to go back to like a more traditional approach. And it's like, it's almost like Dan Campbell's like dug in his heels so tight that he just has to like find a way to make it work now. And I don't know that it's going to work. So it
Sure,
sucks.
it does.
All right, well, that's all I got for question of the week, man. So, anybody who's out there, just like name that stadium, hit us up. Let us know what you're seeing, what you're thinking about the Lions in comparison to the Giants, all that kind of jazz. And so, yeah, James, any kind of closing thoughts for tonight, man?
No, I don't think so. Because if I start talking more, I'll just get more and more pissed off.
All right. Well, hey, for the sake of keeping the peace here, man, we'll cut it short. Well, not cut it short, but we'll cut it off. Anybody who's watching, we hope you like the show. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up, a like, comments, all that stuff. We want to interact with you guys. We do this stuff every week. James, like always, man, it was fun. I'll catch you later.
All right, sounds good. Have a good one.
See ya.
Gridiron Grinder. Hut hut hike.